Part 110. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 1091. In addition, other information of eternal nature can also be used as the object of transaction. Ying He fell into deep silence after hearing this. This request is not excessive. It can even be said to be very light. How much do you need? I don't know, because I don't know when I can complete the final practice. Hearing Lin Yi's words, Yin He was stunned for a moment, and then suddenly realized. I understand. What you need is a continuous supply of souls, and the amount required is uncertain. We really can't afford it. If 1/10 of the resources are missing, it means that we can hold on for less time. Maybe when all our resources are exhausted, you still haven't completed your practice. Then we will have wasted 1/10 of our resources, but we'll only have a bleak ending. Yes, that's the reason. This last practice is too difficult, and I don't know when it can be completed. I have a suggestion. Maybe you can explore other airspaces in the Eternal Sea. Find an alliance and try to push your realm to match the realm of those mysterious real people and sub-real people in the Holy Land. If you can reach that realm, then accumulate it over a long period of time. You still have a way out. Hearing this, Galaxy's eyes showed a trace of thought. This plan is feasible, but it is only one of the hopes. Next, we still have to see whether those people in our hometown will come to help. If they are unwilling to come, then we will only choose the last way. Escape as far as you can. Go to the upstream of the endless river. There may be another world. Lin Yi was thoughtful when he heard this. But he didn't say anything and turned to leave here. Using the power of the true destiny, he continued to go upstream and return to the coordinates of the void. As for what will happen on the front line, it has nothing to do with him. In the Wanchaiwu, Lin Yi's body is conducting an experiment. At this time, he is checking the relationship between the true destiny handprint and the eternal nature. A ray of eternal nature flashed on his mind. His two hands made a wonderful seal. The spiritual wave slowly injected into the seal, and then the eternal nature in his mind began to emit a wonderful light. The handprint and the eternal nature seemed to be resonating with each other. Then, something wonderful happened. The eternal nature flew out of his mind and gathered directly on the handprints of his hands. It merged with the spiritual waves in the handprints and turned into a green substantial handprint. At this time, the handprint flashed and rushed directly into the depths of his mind, landing on the true destiny of the root of the true destiny. The true destiny is the essence condensed from the handprint lotus, with the pattern of the handprint on it. At this time, this substantial handprint has landed on the handprint trace corresponding to the true destiny. With a slight tremor, the root of the true destiny has undergone a wonderful change. The original handprint was just a pattern on the true destiny, as if it was painted on it. But now this handprint is slightly raised, as if it has changed from a plane to a solid. The true destiny trembled slightly, and the whole seemed to be shrouded in a hazy sense of substance. This scene made Lin Yi's heart move. What is this? The true destiny is transforming from illusion to substance. Does that mean that when all the handprints become this kind of protrusion, it looks like a carved structure? The true destiny will become a real object. What will be the result? Countless thoughts flashed through Lin Yi's mind. Then he began to continuously conclude the seal method and merge it with the eternal nature in his mind. One after another, the handprints protruded from the true destiny. The 6 true destinies all showed the characteristics of substance. At this time, more than 120 eternal properties have been constructed in his mind. Using the power of the mind and the eternal property information obtained, the eternal properties are woven. However, except for the original 37, there is no one corresponding to the true destiny. These useless eternal properties can also serve as his foundation, and under the influence of spiritual waves, they can exert great power. At this time, the clone who was going upstream in the endless river felt that the true destiny boundless and true destiny perseverance that were being used had some subtle changes. That is, the spiritual waves consumed have decreased. This reduction is very obvious, about 7 or 8%, which is already a very considerable number. It seems that when all the true destiny handprints are integrated into the eternal nature, the consumption may drop by 10 times. And the time my spiritual wave limit can support will also be extended by 10 times. But the most important thing is to find out the relationship between the eternal nature and the handprints. Only in this way can we really start to deduce the infinite true destiny. His eyes looked at the crystal ball in front of him, which stored hundreds of billions of eternal nature information. Of course, if he wanted to convert them all into eternal nature, what he lacked was countless spiritual origins, as well as the process of absorbing and converting eternal nature. This information needs to be reconstructed after his understanding before it can be used, and the whole process will consume a lot of spiritual essence. Today, all members of the Xuanhuan are acting in the super world, fulfilling various wishes and earning spiritual origins. The number of life forms in the super world may not be counted even if it is trillions and trillions. Although Sakuramiya Shirley and the others have worked very hard and are looking for their goals almost every moment. After all, only a few people have urgent wishes. Even if there are countless lives, the wishes that can be fulfilled in the super world are limited. This has resulted in a limit to daily income. Sighing deeply, Lin Yi's eyes were deep. This won't work. He fell into a slight thought and looked at the weird place. Maybe I should consider going deeper into the weird place. He also got a piece of information from the information of the Baisang clan of the Holy Land. That is, when the Holy Land alternates between day and night, the enemies of the Holy Land will appear. And their enemies are weird, which will only appear in the dark. At that time, infiltrating every city in the Holy Land will face the attack of weird. At the same time, it is also the time when the power map changes. The families will even attack each other, snatch resources, and gather more power to eliminate weird. When Lin Yi saw this information, he was also very shocked. He had not expected that there were strange things in the Holy Land, and that it was a huge disaster that could shake the entire power structure of the Holy Land. According to the records of the Baisang clan, all the strange things came from one thing. The resentment, unwillingness, and angry residue of the souls whose lives were harvested. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 1092. Update the latest chapter of the Xuanhuan View I created as soon as possible. The most negative things in the soul have gathered together to become strange. Weirdness is everywhere, and wherever there is life, they will appear. It's as if life is born to attract them to come, with the purpose of destroying all life. Lin Yi now wants to obtain more spiritual origin, and there is another way. That is, through strange places, we may be able to connect to other places of unknown life. Writing this, I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow circled M. In the records of the Baisang clan, the Eternal Sea, where the reapers harvest life, is called the place of life by them. Meaning, everything that has life. Lin Yi's plan was to find these places of life through strange places, and then use the ability of Xuanhuan to connect to those places of life. In this way, the business scope of Xuanhuan can break away from the scope of the superworld and find more suitable spiritual origins. Then, let's send a clone to investigate. Thinking of this, the 9 useless eternal qualities flew out of his body and turned into a brand new clone. The 9 eternal natures, driven by the power of spiritual waves, are enough to exert a combat power that rivals the ultimate spiritual powerhouse on the 4th level. It's enough for use in weird places. With a little brand, you can borrow the power of your true life at will. The combination of the two is not much different from his original body. In a flash, the clone disappeared from the House of Everything, and when it reappeared, it was already under the void. Endless grey mist shrouded the place, and strange beings were flying out of this gray sea. Launching an attack on the superworld is just in vain. Lin Yi's arrival naturally attracted the attention of some strange beings. However, Lin Yi had no interest in getting entangled with them. Under the protection of Zhenming Boundless and Zhenming Perseverance, he instantly crossed the gray sea and rushed into a deeper place. After a while, he came to a truly weird place. He looked up at the sky. He didn't know when gray-white mist had enveloped the sky in the strange place. There is also endless gray-white mist flickering under the sky, filling the entire strange place. There are always countless strange figures flickering in the gray mist. Some are as big as mountains and the moon, covering the sky and the sun, and some are as small as insects, swarming in groups. The weird place becomes weirder and weirder. Just standing here, there is a power that affects the soul all the time. Any ordinary creature that sets foot here will be distorted by this spiritual power in a short period of time. Eventually it becomes a strange existence and becomes a part of the strange place. The brilliance of the true meaning of life flashed in his eyes. After observing carefully for a moment, it turned into a stream of light, traveling across countless distances and heading in one direction. At this time, he is in the state of true life, and no breath will be leaked. His presence isn't even felt unless you see him directly. Therefore, no strange things came to his door and interfered with his journey. His speed is so fast that it can't be locked with the naked eye, and any strange thing he encounters will pass by in a flash. Wei Wei couldn't find the direction even if he wanted to chase him. This is the power and terror of Zhenming. Along the way, Lin Yi saw a lot of terrifying things. In terms of strength, it was even comparable to the strong men with the 4th level of ultimate psychic power. Every move exudes unimaginable terrifying power. In the process, he even saw a huge figure that was 1,000,000 meters high. Every hair on that figure's body is made up of countless weird beings. These strange beings were squirming around it, and all eyes fell on Lin Yi. The huge and strange existence seemed to be aware of Lin Yi and launched an attack on him. The huge palm directly covered the sky and pressed in Lin Yi's direction. The most terrifying thing is that with one palm, the entire strange world seems to have frozen. The endless gray mist was under control and converged towards Lin Yi, trying to suppress him there and unable to move until he was beaten to death. None of this had any effect on Lin Yi, except that the gray mist now contained power that could interfere with the mind. To a certain extent, it puts him in a hindrance and affects the effect of his true life. But now the consumption of true life has been reduced a bit, and by increasing the injection of spiritual waves, he can break out of the shackles of the palm falling from the sky. The next moment, Lin Yi completely disappeared from the sight of this huge and strange being. After avoiding the pursuit of the huge and strange existence, and after spending some time, Lin Yi finally arrived at the twisted land. At this time, the distorted land had completely collapsed, and no one knew what happened. A huge pit appeared here. Lin Yi looked down the pit, and endless gray mist spewed out from it. The true Fate Deja cannot easily see the bottom. The gray-white mist there is too thick and has strong interference ability. Frowning slightly, Lin Yishan rushed towards the abyss. The skilled man is bold, and he is just a clone, so he has nothing to fear. Less than 100 meters down, he saw something unusual. Countless weird tentacle arms have filled the entire abyss. These arms were grabbing at Lin Yi. They were countless in number and so densely packed that just looking at them made people feel scared. Although the whole of the abyss has expanded, these weird arms have not decreased, on the contrary, they have become more numerous. Lin Yi rushed over like a stream of light. The further he went down, the denser his arms were and the greater his power became. However, Lin Yi's speed was also getting faster and faster. Finally, after spending about half a day, Lin Yi came to the exit of the abyss. At this time, this place was like a torrent pouring out. Endless gray-white mist gushed out from here, passing through the abyss and spraying towards the strange place. Obviously, the gray-white mist in the void all came from here. With a subtle thought in his eyes, Lin Yi looked down. The endless gray-white mist, with no end in sight, gave him a familiar feeling. Eternal sea, endless river. Strange version. A hint of surprise appeared in his eyes. Could it be that there is a place similar to the Holy Land in this gray-white mist? A region with countless powerful and strange existences. For example, the contract of the Wish Shrine, where is the mysterious source of power? With countless questions and expectations flashing in his mind, Lin Yi continued to go deep into the mist. Maintaining the state of true destiny, he began to search. The light of the true destiny flickered in his eyes, looking for a place similar to a border. He moved to the left of the abyss exit. Because there was a strange barrier here. The abyss itself was made up of this strange barrier. According to this reasoning, if there really is a place leading to other places of life, it should also exist in this mysterious barrier. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 1093. The latest chapter of the Wanchaiwu I Created is updated the fastest. His eyes kept flashing with the light of the true destiny, searching for possible passages. This place shrouded in grey fog was filled with inexplicable silence. It looked like a dead land without any life. He was even surprised that he didn't see anything weird. Logically speaking, the weirdness originated here, so it should be full of weirdness. A question flashed through his mind, but he couldn't get an answer. After only a few hundred meters, he suddenly stopped. Because a weird thing happened. At this time, there were strange changes around him. It made him feel incredible. He turned his head and looked around, and he suddenly appeared in a city. And this was clearly a modern city, and he was standing on a street. Looking at this scene, he suddenly felt incredible in his heart. What's going on? There were countless questions flashing in his mind, and the light of the true destiny flashed in his eyes. He immediately felt that his eyes were covered by a mysterious force. At present, the light in his eyes could not see through this strange scene. Tall buildings, bright lights, and a night of debauchery filled with a familiar feeling. The people on the street were vivid, and there was even spirituality in their eyes, just like real life. Although the true destiny solution could not completely see through this world, Lin Yi still saw something. These figures were made of gray-white mist, but there seemed to be thinking in these mists. At this time, the street where Lin Yi was located was a bar, and the street was full of men and women wearing revealing clothes. Women in leather pants walked over in a few steps and looked at Lin Yi with a smile on their faces. "Handsome guy, do you want to come to our store to play?" As she said, she gently held Lin Yi's arm with her left hand. Her skin was white, her arms were very soft, and half of her body was leaning on Lin Yi's arm. Lin Yi took a deep breath, and a trace of solemnity appeared in his eyes. He quietly got rid of the woman's entanglement. What the other party said was clearly the language of the Red Lotus realm. This means that the other party is very likely to be able to detect some information about him. This strange place seems to be getting weirder. Lin Yi walked along the street a few steps, and the woman behind him looked at his back as he left, her face gradually becoming cold. Her eyes also became cold, and then she turned and walked towards her own bar. Her face suddenly became colorful again, and she mingled with the people around her. Lin Yi also observed this change, and a hint of inexplicable color appeared in his eyes. Is it wise? Lin Yi's eyes kept sweeping around, and his feet kept moving forward, heading in the direction of his memory. Then, he vaguely found something wrong. Everyone here was looking at him intentionally or unintentionally. Even if they were chatting happily and excitedly, their eyes were always on him. This weird change made people's scalps numb. But Lin Yi still didn't care, he was still waiting quietly. Since the surroundings have become like this, there must be some reason. As long as you wait, the black hand behind will always show its feet. Lin Yi suddenly stopped and looked ahead. Because there was a building there, which turned out to be a small courtyard. This small courtyard was so familiar in his eyes. It was the place where the old man who took him in lived when he came to this world. With complex emotions flashing through his mind, Lin Yi walked to the gate of the courtyard in a few steps. Then he stretched out his hand and gently pushed the gate. Creak. The gate opened gently, and it seemed that it was not closed. Lin Yi took a deep breath, and a trace of solemnity appeared in his eyes. He stepped into the gate, and in an instant, the world seemed to become silent. The noise of the outside world disappeared in an instant. Lin Yi looked back and everything just now disappeared. Only the world shrouded in pure gray and white mist remained. This scene startled him. What's going on? He frowned slightly and turned to look inside the small courtyard. Inside was a courtyard of about 30 square meters. There was an ordinary gray stone table in the yard. There was an old man's chair next to the stone table, and an old man about 70 years old sat on it. The old man was wearing a gray coat, with an ordinary face and a small mustache. The old man swayed with the chair, and his face was so familiar. Lin Yi looked at him with a very complicated look. If it wasn't for the old man who saved him, he might not know that he starved to death in that place. Is it true or false? The light of the true Dao in his eyes flickered, and the old man in his eyes was also a mysterious thought, and there was a gray mist. Lin Yi walked over and sat opposite the old man. Long time no see, Grandpa. The old man on the old chair slowly opened his eyes and looked at Lin Yi. You are back. I've prepared the meal, let's go, it's time to eat. Lin Yi did not refuse and followed the old man into the house. There was a large table here, with 4 dishes and 1 soup on it. The dishes were very ordinary, 2 meat dishes, 2 vegetarian dishes, and a bowl of vegetarian soup. The two sat at the dining table, and the grandfather looked at Lin Yi. How have you been lately? Lin Yi looked at the old man and nodded calmly. Not bad. Calm and fulfilling, but quite busy. The old man had a smile on his face. That's good. Try it, you haven't eaten my cooking for a long time. Lin Yi looked at the food on the table, all of which were made of grayish-white mist. If it were an ordinary person, just eating it would cause mutation. But he didn't care, picked up a piece of braised pork with chopsticks and put it in his mouth. Tasting it gently, the color, aroma and taste were almost the same as the real braised pork. The old man looked at him with a smile on his face. How does it taste? Very good, your cooking skills haven't changed. The old man nodded. Eat more if you like it. But at this time, the old man's eyes changed slightly. Originally full of emotions, but now it has become very cold, without any emotions, as if looking at Lin Yi as if he was looking at a dead person. Lin Yi looked at the old man's eyes and sighed slightly. It would be better if you were more like him. As soon as the words fell, a mighty spiritual wave accompanied by 9 eternal rays of light spread out in all directions. With the power of the spiritual wave, everything was heading for destruction wherever the light passed. The table in front of him instantly decomposed and turned into the most basic gray-white mist that dissipated everywhere. The old man in front of Lin Yi also changed his expression suddenly. He seemed shocked by Lin Yi's power. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 1094. Before he could react, he was already submerged in the infinite light. The 9 colors of light, covered by the spiritual wave, blew around like a storm. The next moment, the whole world shattered and turned into countless gray mists. Lin Yi's eyes also changed dramatically. A strange existence composed purely of gray mist appeared in front of him. This strange mist looked like a huge eyeball from the outside. In the pupils, an incredible look flashed and stared at Lin Yi. It seemed to be puzzled and puzzled, why Lin Yi could see through its power. Lin Yi looked at it quietly, with a hint of coldness in his eyes. Is it you? You make me a little angry. The next moment, 9 eternal lights burst out, and the spiritual wave consumed 1%. The 9 kinds of light changed again in an instant, turning into a black flame. Under Lin Yi's control, the flame instantly turned into an infinite flame, covering the strange eyeball in front of him. The flames covered 1,000 meters, and the strange cloud eyeball was directly trapped in it. The eyeball immediately fought back, and strange ripples burst out from the eyeball, sweeping and destroying everything. The ripples collided with the surging flames, and countless shocks broke out between the two. But Lin Yi used 1% of the spiritual wave to push this wave of flames, and the power was earth-shaking. One blow burned the ripples stimulated by the eyeball into ashes. The huge eyeball was directly swept by the flames. In 1 second, the huge cloud eyeball was burned into nothingness. A surging strange essence was sucked into Lin Yi's mark. Then it entered the soul of the main body through the induction of the dark. Under the power of the true destiny, the strange essence was directly consumed and transformed into spiritual waves. After destroying the mysterious eyeball that could affect him, Lin Yi looked around. The direction of his left hand was still the mysterious barrier that could not see the end. This mysterious barrier was very special and was completely composed of strange power. It was very solid, like an eggshell, binding the strange mist inside. Lin Yi looked outside the barrier, his eyes showing a trace of thought. In the void, the outside world is pure emptiness. What is the outside world of the strange place? Thinking of this, Lin Yi had a hint of interest in his heart. His palm was gently placed on the mysterious barrier, and the huge resistance hindered his true destiny effect. The next moment, the spiritual wave disappeared by January 10th. He passed through this mysterious barrier like a phantom. Then he was surprised to find that he was back in the strange mist. But his direction seemed to have changed. The barrier appeared on his right, which was clearly on his left just now. Seeing this change, he immediately realized something. Could it be that I went from one side of this strange sea of clouds to the other side? Is this barrier an infinitely looping space-time? No matter where you enter, you will eventually return to this strange sea of fog. Just appear from the opposite side. A hint of surprise flashed in his eyes. In other words, outside the strange sea of clouds is the concept of non-existence. Even emptiness no longer exists. Countless thoughts flashed through his mind, and he took a deep breath. Is the strange place really getting more and more magical? His eyes narrowed slightly, turned into a stream of light, and continued to move forward along the barrier. The light of the true destiny solution kept searching up and down, left and right, looking for the target. But in a short period of time, it seemed that nothing was found. A long time had passed at this time, and the connection with the main body made him clearly feel the distortion of the concept of time. It seemed that he had experienced thousands of years in this strange ocean. But only a few void days had passed in the void. He had also experienced this kind of change in the eternal ocean. During this period of time, he had been attacked by a large number of strange beings. Some can form strange illusions around him, and some can directly become terrifying strange existences and attack him. Some even accidentally stepped into some strange traps and were involved in strange phenomena. The most dangerous one was when he stepped into a phenomenon that could distort the coordinate structure. In that strange phenomenon, all visible and invisible things will be separated and cannot become a whole. For example, the body turned into countless pieces in an instant, but it does not mean death, but the bodies can never be connected. If Lin Yi had not maintained his true life, he would have been divided into countless pieces in that strange phenomenon until he was corroded and died by the strange fog. These strange things opened Lin Yi's eyes. If each one appeared in the void, it would set off unimaginable disasters. At this time, Lin Yi finally found a place that seemed to be the target. It was a huge cave, existing on this mysterious barrier. However, countless strange tentacles appeared at the huge hole, waving constantly in the hole, like waves, or like some kind of abyss, waiting for prey to enter. If it were an ordinary person, they would be terrified just by seeing it. They might even suffer a mental breakdown and undergo a mutation from mind to body. When Lin Yi saw the hole, he was also slightly shocked. It was the same cave as the one he came from, except that the arms in this cave had become tentacles. It seems that this is a passage leading to a place of life. We can explore it. Thinking of this, he jumped into it. The power of the true destiny made him ignore everything. His speed increased to the limit, and he instantly crossed an infinite distance. The deep pit was full of wriggling tentacles, but these tentacles were different and extremely strange. Some tentacles were covered with sharp barbs, some were covered with suction cups, and some even had strange faces. These things were all full of horror and weirdness, and even had mysterious fluctuations that triggered negative emotions. However, under the protection of the true destiny, he passed through this death passage without any danger. I don't know when, he has come to the exit. Outside is a strange huge mountain range, and he is at the top of this mountain range. The whole mountain looks like a crater, a huge bottomless abyss, and no one knows where it leads to. Lin Yi floated above the cave entrance, his eyes sweeping across the strange place. Then he was surprised to find that there was no gray-white fog here. The gray-white fog was still confined under this huge abyss, just like the sound of the void at the beginning. It seemed that some power sealed them and prevented them from spreading. Lin Yi's heart moved, and he immediately realized something. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 1095. Could it be that this land of life has not yet reached the time to be harvested? Lin Yi showed a hint of surprise in his eyes, thinking. In that case, we can explore it? I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow. There should be many strong people here. Thinking of this, Lin Yi looked up at the sky. There was a sky covered with thick dark clouds, and no higher layers could be seen. However, under the interpretation of the true destiny, Lin Yi quickly saw through the endless dark clouds. His spirit was slightly shaken, and he saw an incredible scene. His eyes penetrated the infinite distance, and even saw through some levels of time and space coordinates, and finally witnessed the scene outside this strange land. A huge cosmic starry sky, with scorching stars everywhere at a glance. But these stars are not the celestial bodies such as stars and black holes observed on Earth. It is composed of a mysterious power. The entire universe is a huge network formed by the brilliant mysterious spiritual power. These countless networks are like the rules of this world, spreading across the starry sky. This rule is perfect, and it is just one of the one-dimensional rules that Lin Yi has seen. This world actually has one-dimensional perfect rules, and each rule represents an eternal nature at the level of an eternal will. One rule can evolve a complete nest of life, which is incredibly powerful. And this is not the most shocking thing for Lin Yi. This world also has 3,000 brilliant lights. Each of these 3,000 lights allows Lin Yi to see traces of true destiny. Each of these 3,000 lights is formed by the fusion of 9 eternal wheel-level rules. The interweaving cycle is producing a wonderful transformation, and the power emitted by this transformation has a trace of spiritual waves and true destiny. He immediately realized what was going on in his heart. The strong men in this world have already touched the threshold of true destiny. This is really incredible. It turns out that the Holy Land is not the only world that has touched true destiny. This world seems to be extraordinary. These 3,000 brilliant lights. Each of them has a trace of life mark. It seems that they should represent 3,000 invincible strong men. But some of them seem to be very silent. They belong to the past and history. Are they left by dead strong men? However, if these strong men knew the existence of the Holy Land, I wonder what they would think. This land of life is far stronger than the void. If the void is exposed, I am afraid that the entire void will be conquered, destroyed, and swallowed. You can take a look at the cultivation method of this world first. If they don't cultivate by devouring the hearts of all living beings, maybe letting them occupy the void is a good choice. A trace of thought flashed in Lin Yi's eyes, and then his eyes looked at the center of the entire land of life. There is an extremely huge continent, floating quietly in the center of countless stars, as if it is the center of all time and space. Seeing this scene, he thought, it seems that this land of life is different from the void. It seems to be a huge hole from the beginning, unlike the void which is composed of countless life nests, countless world groups and worlds. The huge volume contains the essence and wisdom of the entire land of life, which can condense such a perfect rule structure. Lin Yi can naturally see that every rule and every brilliant light here are all created by the strongest people of the lowest third level of mind, representing the most fundamental power of each strong person. Lin Yi had an idea in his mind, and flew towards the sky above the strange land in a flash. His speed was very fast, and he was not discovered by the strange existences in this strange land. Soon he crossed the countless coordinate distances above the strange land and entered a vast universe. However, the moment he entered here, Lin Yi realized that something was wrong. Facing himself as an outsider, the whole world seemed to be repelling. Countless rules swept towards him, including the 3,000 brilliant lights, which also came towards him. In an instant, Lin Yi knew what was going on. All creatures in this world are composed of the rules of this number of UN, and there are 3,000 brilliant lights. This huge network is naturally a defensive network. Any existence that steps into this place, as long as it is not connected to these rule networks and is not bound by the rule networks, will be attacked by the entire network immediately. At this time, Lin Yi suddenly realized that it was no wonder that he did not see the strange power rushing into this universe. Because the most powerful force in this universe constitutes this huge rule network. It is like a protective network, firmly blocking the strange power outside. He passed through this network, and naturally he would be attacked immediately. Lin Yi narrowed his eyes and did not want to be bound by this world. The next moment, he rushed to the huge land in the universe. Under the power of the true destiny, he turned into a stream of light, and his speed increased to an unimaginable level. After a few breaths, he had landed on the central continent. He had already selected a target and rushed into the target's body in a flash. Rushing straight into a broken soul. The power of the true life source was activated, and in an instant, his clone became exactly the same as this soul. At the same time, a faint eternal power flashed by. The broken soul was instantly intact, and a trace of wonderful thinking appeared on this reborn soul. Lin Yi repaired the broken soul of this body, and at the same time used the true life source to turn himself into a thinking soul and merged into this soul. The rule network that had been tracking him stopped fluctuating when he merged into the soul. Lin Yi slowly opened his eyes and looked around. At this time, he was in a mass grave, and green ghost fires were floating around, all over the mass grave. The sky was dark, and a bright moon was hanging high in the sky. A pure mysterious energy filled the air. At this time, he slowly climbed up from the ground and looked down at his body. Originally, this body was dead, but the moment he entered, he repaired all the organs of this body and brought it back to life. Lin Yi looked around and strode out of the mass grave. He did not use his own power. The situation in this world was unclear for the time being, and he needed to wait a little. However, the true Fate Daoji has been observing this world. Although this world is full of rule networks, just like the true Fate network of the Holy Land, it covers everything in this world. However, because there are different strong people behind these rule networks, this world is full of countless variables. There is no such thing as fate. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 1096. What this kind of variable brings is that everything is possible in life in this world. All life has the potential and opportunity to grow to its peak. After confirming this, Lin Yi began to observe the mysterious power permeating the world. This power is generated by the operation of all the rules in this land of life. Once you inhale this power, you will be deeply imprinted on this world. It seems that the cultivators in this world have a very close connection with the rules. They will also be affected by these rules. In addition to observing all this, Lin Yi was also observing the information contained in the body's originally broken soul. This body was that of a human being, but it was still different from the human races he had seen. First of all, it has 365 bones and 365 acupoints on its body, which correspond to the stars in the sky. At the same time, he knew from his memory that this body was a subject of the dynasty in this area, the Dacian dynasty. This is a world with practitioners, Taoists, monks, various schools of thought, gods, and demons. This is an era that is like a myth. The sky is full of powerful people, living in countless famous fairy mountains, blessed places, and other places. The intelligence obtained from this information is limited, and is limited to some famous races and forces in the Dacian dynasty. The only thing he knew was that there were more powerful dynasties further away from this dynasty. Legend has it that in the center of the world, there is a place called the Supreme God's Dynasty. Legend has it that it is the origin of all civilizations and has countless strong men. Catching the stars and the moon, turning the world upside down, going to heaven and earth, etc. This information gave Lin Yi a better understanding of the world. He frowned slightly. This world is a bit strange. The largest race is actually human. But there are countless races on this continent, and they seem to have all kinds of hatred against humans. In the soul's memory, he saw a lot of historical information about alien attacks on human dynasties. Lin Yi shook his head slightly. It seems that it is not easy to open a house of all things in this world. But there are no strange traces in this person's memory. It seems that it is because the rules of this world are too strict, suppressing the appearance of weirdness. Lin Yi was thoughtful with a hint of caution in his eyes. The purpose of his visit this time is to open up a new source of spiritual origin. But the world seems a little difficult to deal with now. First, get in touch with the situation of cultivators in this world. Try again to see if weird power can appear in this world. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but think of the reason for the death of this body. The man he possessed was called Wang Long, a scholar. The reason why he died here was because the scholar offended someone and was quietly caught here and beaten to death. The reason is simply because he made some limelight at a poetry gathering and stole the limelight from a stubborn disciple. Because that poetry meeting was specially held by this stubborn kid to make himself famous. Even the poem was written for him in advance, but Wang Long ruined it. Wang Long, a boy born into a poor family, became famous as a writer. Scholars in this world also have power, called Heirangenki. However, to practice Confucianism, you need to obtain merit and fame. Only after you are admitted as a scholar can you officially start practicing. However, if the power of the Confucian sect is to be truly transformed into combat power, it needs to be admitted to the JK examination. So this Wang Long is still a helpless guy. In the end, less than a day after the poetry meeting ended, he was caught and beaten to death by the man who wanted to destroy his children. Lin Yi also shook his head helplessly. This man died so unjustly. But this has nothing to do with him, and he has no intention of returning to Wang Long's hometown. After returning, it will inevitably attract the attention of the disciples who insist on defeating them, but will cause countless troubles. The power of the spiritual wave was injected into an eternal nature, and a trace of inexplicable mysterious energy filled the air, flowing throughout his body in an instant. Then, the deepest genetic information of Wang Long's body was completely controlled by Lin Yi. Then, the bloodline hidden in his body began to vibrate, activated by the power of eternal nature. A huge suction force came from his body, and the mysterious energy floating around was quickly swallowed up. The body began to erupt with powerful power, and a pale golden flame filled the air from Wang Long's body, surrounding it. This is the bloodline ability he has mastered, a strange golden flame. A trace of golden blood appeared in Wang Long's heart and flowed through the body along the blood vessels. A large amount of energy seeps into the body from the skin and is absorbed by this golden power. As this drop of blood flows, every corner of the body is rapidly strengthened. In a short period of time, Wang Long has transformed from an ordinary mortal into a bloodline practitioner who has mastered power. This blood gave him this golden flame, and at the same time, his physique was enhanced by a full 10 times. If he were in mortal society, he could already be regarded as a Superman walking sideways. But in this world, this power can rival Confucian scholars. Juren means that you truly have the power to compete with other practitioners in this world. The mainstream practices in this world are Buddhism, Taoism, demonism, bloodline, various schools of thought, and countless other schools. Therefore, the methods of practice are also various and strange, and 100 flowers bloom brilliantly. Each level of cultivation is different, so the combat power is also very confusing. So in order to measure their own strength, each organization has divided a special combat power system. Levels are purely distinguished by combat power. These levels are also very simple: mortal level, warrior level, true martial level, divine martial level, true immortal level, immortal king level, immortal emperor level, immortal emperor level, supreme level. There are 9 combat power levels in total, among which mortal is the lowest and supreme is the highest. There are also 3 stages in each level, namely the front, middle and back stages, each with its own iconic characteristics. Now he is equivalent to stepping into the peak of the mortal level and truly possesses combat power. The symbol of the mortal level is to truly master power, which can strengthen the body, split gold and stone, and has a certain power beyond physics. For example, the layer of light golden flame he mastered. He gently picked up a dead leaf on the ground, and the golden flame enveloped the dead leaf, instantly igniting it and turning it into ashes. To enter the warrior level, the first requirement is that his current power can cover a 3-foot range, forming a powerful attack effect and range. For each subsequent level, the range of influence and strength of power are a kind of assessment standard. It is necessary to fight with people of the same level to determine. So in this world, realm is just realm. Combat power is the judgment of level. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 1097. If you want to prove your fighting power in this world, you usually challenge famous practitioners everywhere. This feeling reminded Lin Yi of the Jianghu. In order to become famous, you will challenge everywhere. Thinking of this, Lin Yi shook his head. This world is really strange. With the initial strength, Lin Yi began to hurry. At this time, he had come to the main road, and quickly moved along the road in the direction of Wang Long's memory. He was going to the capital of this dynasty to observe the practitioners there. Then he would test the strange power to see if he could enter this world. It was night at this time, walking alone on the main road, and all kinds of terrifying roars came from the surrounding forests. This roar was deafening, and there was a hint of power hidden. Obviously, it was not an ordinary beast. There are also legends of monsters in this world. They also absorb the essence of the sun and the moon, and the vitality in the air to grow. The power that permeates the air in this world is called vitality, which is the basis of the power of all practitioners. No matter what kind of power system is cultivated, it is inseparable from vitality. Even those in the demon sect who draw blood and chi to practice need yuan chi to neutralize it. Yuan Qi is the foundation of everything, and no one can get rid of it. At this time, he had advanced hundreds of miles, and he was always shrouded in the power of the true destiny. His speed was amazing, like a ghost. He was walking on the official road of this world, which was generally safe and there would be no accidents. However, the official road at this time had entered a canyon with towering cliffs on both sides. This world is full of demons and monsters. As soon as he approached this valley, he felt something was wrong. This valley was full of gloomy power and heavy resentment. Obviously, many people had died. This canyon was called Dulong Gorge, because there was only one road in the area of hundreds of miles, which could pass through this mountain range. But there was a kind of ape creature living in this canyon, called the man-eating ape. Passing here requires a large group of people, and there must be a cultivator to escort them. Otherwise, mortals would never be able to pass here and would be eaten dry. Lin Yi didn't care about the changes and problems here. His figure was like a flash of lightning, and he quickly broke into the Dulong Gorge. The passage in Dulong Gorge is very wide, about 20 meters, and can accommodate many carriages and horses. The length of this canyon is about 3 kilometers, and it is not easy to pass through. The former owner of this body, Wang Long, followed a large group of people into this place when he participated in the government examination. Everything he experienced at that time is still fresh in his memory. They were protected by several practitioners, all of whom were hired martial arts masters. The power they showed was also very strong, almost comparable to the masters of the human immortal way. The distance of several thousand meters was not enough for Lin Yi, and he had to cross this canyon in just a few seconds. But at this moment, he suddenly stopped. He looked at the side with some surprise. I don't know when the position in the center of Dulong Gorge changed. On the right side of the road, an inn embedded in the rock wall appeared. The inn was hung with a red wind lantern, and a flag was planted in front of the door with 4 big characters on it. Feng Xiu Inn. Seeing this scene, Lin Yi became interested because he saw strange traces in this inn. Interesting, there are actually strange things. It seems that this place is not completely impeccable. After he stopped, he walked directly to the door of the inn. Creak. Lin Yi pushed the door open and entered, and there was a dim light inside. Behind the counter was an old man with a shriveled appearance, looking at him with a strange look. The old man did not smile at all, his face was full of wrinkles, his eyes had dark pupils, very deep, and he was wearing a neat white dress, which looked very strange. Guest, do you want to stay overnight or stay at the hotel? The hoarse voice was like a millstone grinding iron, which made people feel numb all over. Stay overnight and stay at the hotel. There is also an upper room, 10 Datong copper coins for 1 night. Hearing the shopkeeper's words, Lin Yi suddenly thought of some information in Wang Long's memory. Datong copper coins were the currency issued by the previous dynasty in the area where the Dogon dynasty was located, and it has been 1,000 years since now. His heart moved slightly, there is indeed something wrong here. Okay, Lin Yi looked at the shopkeeper and replied indifferently. Please follow me, guest, I will take you to the upper room. As he said, the old man picked up a pale oil lamp on the counter. Ordinary oil lamps are usually orange-yellow, but the flame of this oil lamp is pale. In Lin Yi's eyes, what is burning in this oil lamp is not animal fat or plant fat, but the light of the soul. Seeing this scene, he was thoughtful. Following the shopkeeper, he quickly came to the second floor. There was a gorgeous door at the end of the passage. After the shopkeeper opened the door, a very exquisitely decorated guest room appeared. The windows were slightly open, facing the Dulong Gorge. From the perspective of the scenery alone, this is indeed a very good guest room. Guest, are you satisfied with this room? Yes, it's very good. I'll go downstairs and cook some food for you. Our specialty is 3 dishes, 1 soup, and a pot of wine. Lin Yi looked at the shopkeeper, smiled faintly, and said, "Okay, that's fine." Creaking. The door closed. Lin Yi walked to the window in a few steps, pushed the whole window open, and it was dark and the breeze was blowing. This shopkeeper should be some kind of weird, but he is very smart. It's not an ordinary weird, the kind that is completely irrational. You can study it. About 10 minutes later, there was a knock on the door outside. Dong dong dong. Lin Yi's voice sounded, "Come in." The shopkeeper pushed the door open and walked in with a food box. Then he opened the food box expressionlessly, took out 3 dishes and a soup, a pot of wine, and a small bowl of rice. A strong fragrance came to his face, but it contained a hint of stench. Lin Yi watched this scene quietly. After the shopkeeper put the dishes, he looked at him with an ugly smile on his face. 3 dishes, one is stir-fried wild vegetables, one is braised beef, and the other is stir-fried pork slices. The soup is bone soup with green vegetables, which is pure beer brewed by the store. All the food is made from local ingredients. Guest, you can enjoy it. If you need anything, you can come to me. The shopkeeper turned around and left with the food box. Lin Yi looked at him and suddenly spoke. "Let me ask you a question. How many tourists have you killed here?" The shopkeeper looked at him expressionlessly when he heard Lin Yi's words. "Guest, what are you talking about? Why don't I understand?" The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 1098. Looking at this expressionless fake face, Lin Yi smiled. His eyes fell on the dining table, pointing at the food on it and said with a smile. "Look at the 3 dishes and 1 soup you prepared. The green vegetables are hair, the braised beef is human flesh, and the green vegetables and pork slices are hair fried with human flesh slices. The green vegetable and meat soup is full of hair, human flesh slices and human blood, and the rice inside is one after another of fingernail fragments." Taiwan Novel Network Rightward arrow. Do you think a normal person can eat this meal? I'm afraid I'll spit it out directly. Lin Yi looked at the shopkeeper in front of him with a smile. The shopkeeper looked at Lin Yi, and a strange smile appeared on his face. This smile was very creepy, and the corners of his mouth slowly cracked, revealing a mouthful of sharp teeth. "You are such a strange human being. You can actually see through my power. What a pity. You could have been a well-fed ghost. Now you can only be a starving ghost. What a pitiful person." At this moment, the whole room underwent strange changes. As if it had experienced thousands of years, the whole house instantly became rotten. A strange black network appeared all around, and strange tentacles spread out from the network. Like a shot of bullets, it enveloped Lin Yi. There was no gap in all directions. But unfortunately, all these tentacles passed through Lin Yi's body without causing any harm to him. Seeing this scene, the shopkeeper seemed to be stunned. He had never seen such an ability to completely ignore his own attacks. Lin Yi slowly walked towards him, and strange tentacles in the room continued to shoot out from all directions. Covering Lin Yi, he had been pierced by these tentacles dozens or hundreds of times in just a few meters. But all the power was meaningless to him and could not kill him at all. The shopkeeper also turned into a terrifying monster at this time. A twisted face, a huge mouth, and the fangs inside flashed with a fascinating cold light. His body also expanded rapidly, turning into a huge spider-like body. His arms were covered with black shells, and his 5 fingers were sharp and slender, with sharp nails. The shopkeeper screamed wildly and rushed towards Lin Yi, who was walking towards him. "Kill you!" His claws waved violently, as if to tear Lin Yi into pieces. But unfortunately, all his attacks could not cause any harm to Lin Yi. Lin Yi slowly raised his hand, and a golden light appeared in his hand, covered with a layer of green spiritual waves. Then, he appeared in front of the monster in a flash. His right hand directly inserted into the opponent's face, and under the power of the spiritual wave, the monster trembled violently and screamed. "Ah, it hurts." The sharp arms waved wildly, trying to kill Lin Yi, who grabbed him. But unfortunately, all the attacks could not touch Lin Yi himself. Lin Yi's palm had already penetrated into the monster's head. The other party's head was completely destroyed in the light of the spiritual wave and the golden flame, and turned into ashes. At the moment when the monster's head was destroyed, the huge body slowly calmed down and lay directly on the ground. The light of the spiritual wave was spreading rapidly along the monster's body, and the monster was completely dead. Clang! When the monster was completely turned into ashes, something seemed to fall out of his body. Lin Yi looked down and saw that it was a black oil lamp. Lin Yi immediately realized what it was. This was clearly some kind of strange item. Strange item? Since this thing exists, it means that strange power should be able to be used in this world. He picked up the oil lamp, and at this time, the walls and everything around him were rapidly twisting. Lin Yi noticed the scene and immediately realized the problem: this place is going to be destroyed. He turned over and jumped out from the window in a flash, and landed directly on the ground. And the Feng Xuan in front of him also collapsed in an instant and turned into ashes. Everything in front of him returned to its original mountain wall. It seems that this is some kind of strange space-type item. The power of the spiritual wave flowed out of his body and quickly injected into the oil lamp in his hand. Then he understood what this thing was. This oil lamp can create an inn, and the innkeeper is the original owner of this oil lamp. He will attract all passers-by into the inn, and then kill them to become nutrients for the oil lamp. Seeing this information, Lin Yi was thoughtful. Then let's try it first. A note appeared in his hand, which was the note of the wish shrine. Turning around and disappearing here, he went to the nearest city outside the canyon. This city is called Bailong City. Legend has it that a white dragon fell in this city in a distant era. This city seems to have been built where the white dragon fell, and many geniuses have appeared in it. It is said that these people are stained with the breath of the white dragon and are born with great luck and talent. Lin Yi soon came to Bailong City, and the tall city walls could not stop him at all. After arriving here, the note in my hand began to show strange power. In just a few minutes, a mysterious prayer was connected to the note. The note disappeared from Lin Yi's hand, and when it reappeared, it had fallen into a poor family. This family was so poor that they could not even afford to eat, and there was a single mother with 2 children. The mother was still sitting outside, washing clothes in the moonlight. There were at least 3 basins of clothes piled up next to her, and these clothes had not been washed yet. At this time, her face showed great fatigue, and the whole woman was very thin, as if she was about to be crushed by life. There were even some faint tears in her eyes, but they had not yet flowed out. At this time, a note appeared in front of her silently. The note floated quietly in front of her, and some words appeared on it. Do you want to realize your wish? Do you want to get rid of the current situation? The woman looked at the note that appeared in front of her. The words on it were the words of this world, but as an illiterate, she didn't recognize them at all. But the moment she saw the words, she seemed to understand the meaning of the words. This was a matter of the manifestation of the Tao, and even the lowest civilians knew about ghosts and gods. The middle-aged woman looked at the note that suddenly appeared in front of her with a look of doubt. But the note seemed to have magic, making her heart tremble slightly. Maybe I can try. Can it be worse than it is now? The middle-aged woman was uneasy, thinking of the child who was still sleeping in her room. Seeing that she still had 3 large basins of clothes to wash, the sadness in her heart was beyond words. She knew that if she continued like this, she would never be able to get rid of her current situation. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 1099. She raised her hand, trembling slightly, and held the note floating in mid-air. I can't write. Even as she spoke, what was on her mind was already reflected on the note. At the same time, an answer also appeared on it: whatever you think in your heart will appear on this note. Is there anything you want to fulfill? As long as you are willing to pay enough. I want to have enough food for my family. I want my kids to get ahead. No problem. But you need to pay 1/10 of the spiritual source. What is the origin of the soul? A look of confusion appeared on the middle-aged woman's face. You can think of it as your heart. You need to hand over 1/10 to me. The woman was stunned for a moment when she heard this. She still knew what the heart was like. Am I going to die? Of course I won't die. It won't have any impact on you. Okay, I'm willing to exchange. The middle-aged woman chose the transaction without any hesitation. The note spontaneously ignited without any wind, and a faint strange aura appeared. It turned into a wooden portal. The door slowly opened, and a figure walked out. It was the clone of Shirley Sakuronomi Ya, and its aura level was approximately equal to that of Ghost Immortal Deo. Once you reach the second level of the soul, you already have the ability to differentiate among thousands of incarnations. Each of these incarnations has complete mental thinking ability. Not the traditional dull clone. The strength of the incarnation depends on the psychic power injected into it as needed, and it can complete tens or even hundreds of thousands of different tasks at the same time. After Sakuromiya Shirley came to this world, she immediately noticed something was wrong. This place is filled with extremely strict rules. If she came out, she would be attacked by these rules immediately. But now, his whole body is shrouded in a layer of contract power. This contract is connected with the middle-aged woman in front of me, forming a barrier. This barrier is filled with the breath of this world and can completely block the breath of another world. The middle-aged woman looked at the woman in front of her in surprise, as beautiful as the Moon Palace fairy. Are you an immortal? Sakuromiya Shirley looked at the middle-aged woman in front of her. She was the one who was contracted this time. At this time, a familiar thought came to Sakuromiya Shirley's mind. This is a place of new life. You have to err on the side of caution here. Lin Yi, your clone successfully found a new place of life. Good. I understand. Shirley Sakuromiya nodded solemnly. Her eyes fell on the middle-aged woman in front of her again. Next I will grant your wish. I need to know what's going on here first. Lin Yi did not appear. He stood outside the city, thoughtful in his heart. The appearance of strange objects does not seem to cause much reaction in the world. As long as the wish shrine works, that's fine. The power of the contract can still use the breath of life in this world to cover up their traces. But since it is a wish, it will inevitably involve the power system of this world and so on. It seems that I need to collect some skills and treasures from this world. These skills and genius treasures in the void cannot be used in this world at will. Otherwise, the emergence of something with a completely different rule system will inevitably cause a reaction from the rules of heaven and earth. Maybe it will attract the attention of the powerful people behind this land of life. I need resources, not war. Thinking of this, his eyes had already fallen on the city in front of him. The radiance of the true interpretation of life kept sweeping across. He soon found the most powerful being in the city. The most powerful organization in this city seems to be the official organization, and many cultivation methods are piled up in a Buddhist scripture building. There are also a large number of genius treasures piled up in a warehouse. In the blink of an eye, the contents of countless classics have been observed by his true fate interpretation. It contains various dharmadors from hundreds of schools of thought, good and evil Buddhas and demons. This information will be directly transmitted to Lin Yi's body, and then made into secret books one by one, which will appear in the House of Everything. These cheats will be used as trading items in the future. As for the genius treasure of this world, all its components have been observed. With the main body using the power of the true life source, it can be directly created in the house of everything. Similarly, other people from Xuanhuan can also use their spiritual power to make it. The power of the mind can construct everything, regardless of the nature of any rules. Even the vitality and spiritual power of this world can be created. This is the terror of a mentally strong person, who completely ignores all restrictions. There are secret books and genius treasures, and the Xuanhuan view has the basis for trading with the lives of this world. But this is just the beginning. A city's secrets, techniques, and genius treasures are limited. He needs to explore more information about this world in order to copy more powerful treasures and techniques. Attract more people to trade with Xuanhuan. His goal has been set at the center of the world, the legendary Supreme God. Covered by his true life, he flew towards a distant place like a stream of light. He walks on water and passes through mountains. Nothing can stop him. Nothing in the world can affect him. In this process, he analyzes everything he sees. He records all kinds of natural treasures hidden in the deep mountains and old forests. Even things in some mysterious caves can be analyzed by him. In a short period of time, he has mastered thousands of different skills in this world, as well as countless natural treasures. The power that the true destiny can exert is an incredible miracle. There are no secrets in front of him. The sun and the moon rotate in the sky of the continent, and each time it is accompanied by a huge tide of power. The fluctuation is like two peerless masters fighting. Lin Yi can clearly see that there is a supreme strongman in each of the sun and the moon in this world. Although the two figures are well hidden, they cannot escape Lin Yi's eyes. At this time, he finally came to the legendary Supreme Divine Dynasty. A huge and boundless border was established in front of Lin Yi. The border was made of golden stones, reaching a height of about 100 feet. A huge sky curtain rose above the border wall, covering the infinite land within the city wall. This wall seemed like a natural barrier, isolating all connections between the inside and the outside. The only way to enter this border was through one pass after another. These passes were extremely majestic, and at this moment he was standing at a pass called Tianshen Pass. Below the pass, there were dense caravans trying to pass through and enter. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 1100. The latest chapter of the Xuanhuan I Created is updated the fastest. These caravans all use exotic beasts and floating vehicles. Most of these exotic beasts have wind under their feet and fly in the air, which is very strange. The caravans have been lined up from the pass to thousands of miles away, and each caravan must pass the mysterious treasure mirror on the wall of the pass. Lin Yi's eyes can clearly see that the treasure mirror is connected with various rules. Especially the 3000 brilliant, with a trace of true life, it is shining like the sun in the treasure mirror. This treasure mirror seems to cover all the rules of this world. Anyone who wants to pass through the pass will be revealed in detail under the treasure mirror. Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow dot circled M. At this time, a blood shadow appeared in a caravan under the shining of the treasure light. This blood shadow looks very scary, filled with an extremely evil breath. The person he possessed was already empty inside, with only a piece of skin left, which was covered on the blood shadow. The blood shadow was illuminated by the precious light, and immediately burst out with a terrifying breath, and flew into the air to escape. But the soldier guarding the gate, an ordinary city gate soldier, stood up. With a spear in his hand, he pointed to the sky, and a murderous thunder fell from the sky, as fast as lightning. It fell directly on the blood shadow. Rumble. Thunder struck the dry land, and the blood shadow was directly beaten into ashes under the lightning, leaving only a blood-colored crystal. The crystal fell, and after a strange force, it fell into the hands of the guard. The guard took the blood crystal and threw it casually into a bamboo basket next to the pass. There were all kinds of objects in it, flashing all kinds of precious lights. Obviously, these were all left by people who intended to break through the pass. Only the caravans that have been inspected can pass through this huge Tianshan Pass and enter the inner area. Lin Yi observed outside for a while, and did not go through the main gate, but directly found a section of the city wall and passed through. This city wall is very thick, 10 feet long, completely solid, without any gaps. There are countless wonderful arrays inside the city wall, which are connected to the rules of the entire land of life. This is a detailed method of using the rules of the land of life. After passing through the city wall, Lin Yi was surprised to find that the vitality in the light curtain was more than 1,000 times that of the outside world. This dense vitality condensed into countless clouds in the sky, almost turning into liquid. In the air, between breaths, the vitality will be filled into the body, flushing the body and washing away the dirt. People who live here have bodies comparable to the peak of the mortal path at birth. With a little polishing and practice, you can step into the level of the human immortal path, according to this world. People in this place can reach the peak of the mortal level at birth, and a little practice is the warrior level. It is not difficult to reach the true martial level as long as you practice hard. He could almost imagine that this mysterious supreme divine dynasty must be the most powerful force in this world. Lin Yi thought to himself, I wonder if the strongest person in this world is in this supreme divine dynasty. With a glimmer of expectation in his eyes, Lin Yi looked into the distance. Countless terrifying auras gathered in a place in the distance, where the vitality was 10,000 times that of the border. He saw no less than thousands of powerful people at the fourth level of the mind in those auras. And among them, there were more than a dozen existences connected to the brilliant light of this land of life. That should be the peak of the combat power in this world, the supreme level. Lin Yi accelerated infinitely at the wonderful level, and a few hours later, he arrived in front of a huge city. The area of the city alone is comparable to the total surface area of the entire earth. The city is magnificent, and palaces gather here one after another. Even the most ordinary building is a small palace. And none of the people in this city are ordinary people. The weakest flashes the power of the fairy king level, that is, the level of the heavenly fairy. Lin Yi looked at the city gate of the city. There are two huge flashing words written on the city gate, Shendu. This is the capital of the entire supreme divine dynasty. It is said that if there are 9 powers in the world, this Shendu alone occupies 3 powers. This means that 1/3 of the world's powerhouses live here. However, Lin Yi's arrival still did not attract anyone's attention. He quietly passed through the mysterious city wall and entered the Shendu. There are extremely strict rules everywhere here, and any disturbance cannot escape the surveillance of this network. However, these have no effect on Lin Yi, and Zhenming still ignores everything. Even if the power that is infinitely close to Lingbo can be clearly felt in this network, it will only make him consume a little more at most. Lin Yi strode leisurely, passing through palaces one after another, and his goal was the center of the Shendu. There he saw a giant warehouse with countless treasures shining. He still passed through various power blockades silently, and even penetrated a barrier composed of 3,000 brilliant lights, and entered the deepest part of the treasure house. Almost every treasure collected here contains the power of the lowest level for spiritual level. There are even many weapons made of spiritual crystals. The end of cultivation in this world is also the same, entering the cultivation of the mind. In just a few days, he has observed all the precious items in this treasure house. The secrets of these items have been analyzed and have become resources for trading with this world. He also knows the distant history of this world. This world has been a complete continent since its birth. This continent is indestructible and seems to be able to carry all the power in the world. At the beginning of history, countless innate creatures were born. They fought each other and constantly evolved new powers. That was a chaotic era called the Age of Gods and Demons. A total of 3,000 demons were born. Each of them reached the end of their own path and stepped into the extreme of the fourth level of the mind. The eternal nature they mastered was cultivated by them to the state of unity, surpassing the original crystal of the mind, producing a wonderful qualitative change, and becoming the eternal glory of this world. In the history that Lin Yi saw, there were too many magical things. The existence of the 3,000 demons surprised him even more. He didn't expect that these 3,000 rays of panic were created by 3,000 demons. However, after countless times, there were less than 100 of these 3,000 demons left on this mysterious continent. Most of them either died or left this world and went to explore unknown mysterious places. The living innate demon gods gradually established different orders and their own forces on the continent. The long era of separatism began, which has continued to this day.